Okay, so today we're going to take the Concours 14 out for a ride. A couple of interesting things about the Concours 14, and I think the bags are noteworthy. We'll get to the key here in a minute, but this is probably the easiest bags I've ever had the pleasure of taking on and off. I mean, literally just flip the key and it just comes off. You almost think that these little tabs might not be fully engaged, but they are as secure as can be. And I ride with bags all the time. My adventure bike has bags. All my adventure bikes all have bags. They're very difficult to get on and off. You got to maneuver them and push them and pull them. And these just simply put the key in, turn it, pull the handle up, and it's off. See what's kind of going on? There's a tab right here, and these two tabs, and you basically just line them up, and it just flips right on, and that's it. I mean, that's really convenient, and they're large bags. They work really well, but I thought I'd just show that really quick. Let's see some other things. The key is an interesting thing. So I have it on FSS, which means you can pull it out and use it for the bag. Normally, push it down, and it allows you to move it. You have it on off. And off, if you walk away from the bike, then it disables the ignition and you can't turn the key. That is, if you have the dongle with you. All right. So today, Concours 14. And I've done a little bit of riding now, so I'm kind of getting used to the idea of the bike and what it does well and maybe what it wouldn't do well. It's really a beautiful bike. It's a sport touring bike. More of sport maybe than touring if you're thinking Goldwing or Harley Davidson or something like that. But it has the nice saddlebags that come with it. Nice adjustable screen, great mirrors, excellent tires. This has Continental tires on it, new Continental tires, which make it really nice. Other than that, quite a nice bike. So, a couple of things about it. One of them is it does have a cruise control, which is a cruise control lock. If you turn this piece here outward, then it locks the throttle so that it makes it stay where you put it. So 2,000 RPM, something like that. You turn it that way, it loosens. So turn it a little bit up, so I can have it at 3,000 RPM. If I loosen it, it goes down, right? So that's simple, but you need to know about that. It does have a mount here for any accessories. You want to put your GPS, mount that there, spot device, things like that. If you can see the mirrors are lower than I'm used to. I'm riding adventure bikes. Some of the sport bikes, the mirrors are up higher. The lowers are really cool. It really gives you a good view. This one also has the small little mirrors here that are, you see a lot more of a wide angle. So if somebody is actually out here a little bit farther or something down, you can see it just a bit farther out. So if somebody's passing, in the next lane over, you'd actually know there's a full-size, Mack truck or something 2 lanes over. You would actually see it in that little mirror. Where these, you're going to see the lane over and a little bit behind you. Another cool feature is this button right here, which is going to raise your windscreen up and lower it back down, of course. And let's go for a ride. The bike is very quiet. It does have an exhaust note when you really get on it. But other than that, it's really quiet. It sounds electric. That's that exhaust note. Now this speed, which, let's see, what am I doing? About 70 miles an hour? 55 hours, actually, right? Anyway, put it in top gear. And you can hear the wind coming by. But if I roll this up, that wind noise is gone. I really have to turn the video back on again because it's pretty interesting that this bike in the double digits, I just feel like I'm cruising along. It's no big deal. I cruise control and have a cup of coffee. That's pretty amazing. That is amazing. I can do some serious miles on this bike. I guess it's good to show on the cruise control if you're using it. So let's see, I can just set my speed at about 75-ish. And the nice thing about this, the bike is so smooth. Even on this is pretty rough. This Highway 5, which is really, really rough. And it's so smooth that I don't have any problem just sitting here. Really, I need that cup of coffee. That'd be kind of nice right now. So the funny thing is, I overshot my turnoff by a long way. I was enjoying cruising down the freeway on this bike, and I just didn't think of turning off when I should have turned off. And where I meant to go. We'll get back on the freeway. The transmission on this bike is absolutely amazing. It's one of the best transmissions of any bike I've ever ridden. I've ridden a lot. It's super ultra quiet. None of that clunky sound, which we all are accustomed to. You can feel it positively go into gear. Without a doubt, as I shift around, it goes right into gear, but you just don't hear it go clunk. It just positively goes right in gear. Positively? That's a positive feeling on the foot, but yeah, if there weren't that, you would have no idea that you just shifted it, I think. It was really good. Well, here we are at Carnegie SVRA, which is the State Vehicular Recreation Area. We used to call them, OHVs, off-highway vehicle areas, sites, whatever. A good little road. It's not the smoothest road in the world, which gives you an idea of how smooth a bike will be, how well it performs in kind of adverse conditions rather than just perfect conditions. Not something you're trying to go as fast as you can or anything, but it's just kind of a good idea of the handling and characteristics of a motorcycle. And I kind of like this road for that. So we did some highway rides, and I really love that. And now we're going to do a little bit of the twisties. It starts out a little scenic, and then it just gets twisty. I'm not sure how much of this will make it on film, but I'm kind of waiting for cars to go by at the moment. I love this bike. Who would ride this bike? It kind of almost makes me say, who wouldn't? If you're riding sport bikes, say like a GSXR 1100, GSXR 600, a 750, Kawasaki Ninja, you name it, whatever. There will be different characteristics based on this bike. It's probably closer to that than it is maybe an adventure bike. Either one, you're going to have a pretty easy transition to this bike. Longer range really is the thing that helps you. If you're going longer distances now, you want to ride farther. You want to ride to places that are farther away. This is a great bike for it, and it doesn't take any of the sport out of your ride. It's got the luggage you can put your gear in. Maybe you've got hot weather gear, cold weather gear, and you're going to go on a long ride where it's going to get cold in the morning. Saturday, I'm going on a ride. I'm going to start out at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be cold, and they need a place to put your gear. So it's nice to have that. Those are both full-face helmets as well. Full large face, extra large for my noggin, and it fits right in. Adjustable headlights at night. That way, if you've got a load and you haven't really leveled out the suspension, you can still adjust the headlights a little bit to make sure that they're right in the right place to load the road you want. I touched on the mirrors. They're great. As far as handling, from a sport bike, you've got this more upright position. is these bars. They're a lot taller. It's a much more natural position than all that weight on your wrist. Power-wise, they've made this engine have a smoother transition from 0 to 6,000 RPM than, say, a sport bike like the ZX12. And I appreciate that. I like that on the ZX12. Just have a nice, smooth transition of power. It makes it easier to transition through corners. If you decided to enter it slowly and then wanted to go a little faster, you can kind of get on the gas. It's not going to cut away from you. It's not going to overpower the back tire or anything like that. This is equipped with ABS, and that helps for braking in gravel, anything like that. I think what you would notice, the suspension is a lot smoother than it is on a sport bike like that. They're generally on a ZX12, on GSXR, all the Ninjas, Ducati. They're really, really stiff. Sort of back end tends to hop the corners a little bit. When you get on a road like this, you're really noticing because you're getting jerked around quite a bit. Where this is still really enjoyable to kind of go through the corners when it's bumpy. That's why I like adventure bikes. They've got all that suspension that eats up all the big bumps, and so the not perfect road ends up being a really great road to still ride. Stilly ride, just to ride. This bike gives you quite a bit of that. It's still on the sport edge of riding, so you've got good ground clearance. You've got a stiff chassis, so that going through corners, it's bumpy like that, and no problems. But the suspension's forgiving. The power's incredible. You get on the power, and over 7,000 RPM, it just goes. It just takes off. But I'm able to ride it well underneath that, and still have the power I need at any RPM. All the reviews on this bike say, the new reviews, they just hit some gravel there with no problem. And it's interesting, even take with a grain of salt my review on this bike. So one of the things I heard of every review of this motorcycle is that they were saying it was heavy into corners. I can't imagine what they're talking about. The only way I would say this is heavier into a corner is basically a full-on race bike, where a full-on race bike just falls. It feels like it's going to fall to the ground. This is planted. I'm not struggling. I'm not pushing to get it into a corner whatsoever. It goes right where I want it to. Now again, tires make a huge difference in how a motorcycle handles. You get a square tire and they tend to not want to turn. Then when they turn, they tend to fall. Really steep curved tires that are really steep or pointed more at the top, I guess we want to say, they tend to do the same thing. They tend to want to wander when you're driving straight. And then so it's somewhere in between that flat tire, and the pointy tire, which I would call a neutral tire. And that's what's on this bike. It's very effortless going through these corners. There's no pushing, no pulling. It doesn't feel heavy. I'm going to go slower and see if it feels heavy when I'm going slow. Because I've never once felt that. I can just lean the motorcycle and not lean myself. Let's try that. That's perfect. Like that, right? Just lean the motorcycle. Don't do this at home. Normally in slow quarters you do stuff like that, right? But you could lean off this thing. It's going to handle like a sport bike. You've got plenty of ground clearance just like a sport bike does. I love the cornering. I think even 2-up cornering on this bike would be awesome. So if you're coming from a sport bike and want to go to more of a touring bike, this is really the ticket. suppose the one last thing, or a couple last things I would touch on this motorcycle. One is brakes. You look up every review on this motorcycle, and everybody raves about the brakes that are on this motorcycle. And I will tell you, they are nothing short of phenomenal. They have excellent feel, and the stopping power is dramatic. I mean, really, really, really stops with no problems. The feel is amazing. I mean, so you're not surprised by the power. In fact, I forgot to talk about it. But this thing will stop so fast. Has amazing brakes. That is good. And one thing I would comment on is the rear brake. The rear brake feel is tremendous. I don't know how they did that with this bike. Most sport bikes and touring bikes, it takes a while to get used to how to modulate the rear brake because you feel like it's not doing much. On this brake, you can feel it. You can feel how much action you're getting out of that rear brake. And that is awesome.